Hello, and welcome back to the project. Got my coffee ready, and we are back to that annoying thing that we stopped at last time. Last time we exactly stopped. Let's check the document here. Yes, it's about the strategy that we'll be using for the database. We understood what auto is. What we are missing is the difference between identity and sequence. I spent a lot of time last time in ChatGPT, but I couldn't find a satisfying answer, at least to me. So how do I word this? What's the difference between identity strategy and sequence? Okay, no, that's not what I meant. I meant in database Hibernate GPA context. Strategy used in a database to auto increment feature to generate unique IDs for new rows. When you use this strategy, the database automatically generates the primary key value when you insert a new row. The primary key value is not assigned by the application, but by the database itself. Identity strategies rely on underlying database ability to auto-generate the ID itself. It's usually in MySQL, SQL Server. Yes, that's the one that I was searching for, the Microsoft one. SQL Server, and also probably SQLite. The sequence. Use database sequence, a specific kind of database object to generate unique IDs. A sequence, the database object that generates sequential numbers which are used as a primary key. Sequence is created in the database and used to generate unique IDs. This is especially useful when you need you need more control over the generation of keys and want to take advantage of the database sequence ability. Auto increments, and I guess database sequence is just an object. What do you mean by auto increment and the sequence responsible for the creation of the IDs? That's one. Application has less control. IDs is auto-generated, has more control. Custom sequence values. Okay. One of them is custom, another one is not. Okay. How about we make this just points instead and change the color back to black, please? Yes. As it said, the application has less control. Okay. Less control, the IDs are auto generated. What do we see here? We see here more control because it can be custom made. Can create custom sequence value. Okay, that's one. Performance can be slower for patch insert due to database round trips. That one is slower, but this one is more efficient. Okay, this one is slower, faster and more efficient. What else? Tightly coupled with a specific database auto increment feature, works across many databases if they support the sequence. I'll need to ask more about this. What do you mean that a sequence can work across multiple databases while the auto increment can't? Database dependency tightly coupled with a specific piece of that part. Use case best for simple use case with auto increment behavior, best for fine tune. Okay, another question that we didn't understand, what's the difference between them? Let's check this part first. Because still you want to know when to exactly use both of them, but again, let's check. Auto increment is a database feature that automatically generates a unique value for a primary key when a row is inserted. It's typically used for numeric IDs and is managed by the database engine itself, meaning you don't need to explicitly generate the ID in your application code. How auto increments works: you insert a new record in the table, the database automatically assigns the ID to a unique value, usually starting at 1, and increase by 1 for each subsequent record. This is done without the application needing to supply the value for the column. Okay. Different databases have different ways of implementing auto increments and usually some slightly different syntax or mechanism for it. MySQL use auto increment keyword to a specific column. SQL Server, you use the identity property. Postgres SQL don't use auto increment, instead they use serial or big serial for auto increment fields. So wait, does that mean that what is called Postgres SQL also have the ability to auto increment? That means that Postgres SQL has the ability to auto increment. I think the answer is probably yes, as well as making sequences. Limitation of auto increment. Auto increment values are often tied to a specific database system. This means that the auto increment mechanism is different across different databases. If you move your application from one database to another, you would need to adjust the way ID are generated in an auto increment behavior. So yes, it's not a good idea. Concurrency, highly concurrent environments, auto increment may use contamination, or performance issue. So overall, from what I have seen so far, that yes, using the auto one is generally not a good idea. How databases work. Database is measured as sequence. Sequence is a database object that generates a sequence of unique numbers. These numbers are typically used as a primary key for tables, but they can also be used for any purpose where a unique number is required. So this is the one that we can actually custom made. I did have Oracle. Okay. Okay, I think this one is just a big topic that I will continue uh, I mean, another question, table base, it says it's a table, but sequence from what I understood is also a table, not a table, an object. I don't think we will find an end to this topic, but generally speaking, we will not use table. We will usually use auto, and it will pick depending on the database, but generally speaking it depends on what you are using. But currently we are only using Postgres for literally everything, so we will use sequence. And I think Oracle also. Yes, Postgres and Oracle. These are the only two databases that I'm really concerned with. Not sure about the SQLite here, but I'll have to check about that one later. So back to our project. Oof, it has been a while. We said we only focus on the tasks. We'll make it auto for now, but since I'm using Postgres SQL, it should be using sequence automatically. So back. Why long not int? Okay, that was a good question. When we are creating an ID for our database, why is the type usually picked is long instead of int? Is it because it's bigger? I think that's the answer. Okay, so yes, it's just a best practice to have, so that in the future it can grow to a higher range, because long has more range than int. Okay, makes sense. I already have kind of idea about that, but I wanted to just make sure. Now, how to use Lombok? It is called Lombok or just Lom? Let's just go to Lom for now. Nope, not that Lom. The library you use with Java. I think that was it. Okay, it's one or not double. Never mind. It's a popular Java library that helps reduce boilerplate code, making Java classes more concise and readable. By generating commonly used methods such as toString, equals, and hash code, and other annotations. How to use Lombok in your project. We added Lombok now. Actually, it might be helpful to just search it. To search for it here. Yes, you technically don't need Lombok, it just looks amazing, I can say.
Hello everyone, welcome to my
Actually, I have a bad habit of searching everything on YouTube, so might as well try and make this here and search for it on Google instead. Lombok. Yes, so here is the Lombok. Avoid repetitive code. Java is a great language, but sometimes it can be very verbose for common tasks. Yes, I hate writing code that I am already familiar with. So, getters, setters, and constructor. That's what I know Lombok for. Add getters, add setters, and no args constructor. I think there was a better website explaining Lombok. Just the annotation and what they do. Where was it? Not that one. I think I've seen it right now. Automatically generate getters and setters. Methods for the fields to string method in the class, including all the non-static fields. Equals and hash code, generate the equal and hash code based method in the field. I don't think I'll be needing these for now. No args constructor, all args constructor. Yes, we will need this. Required args constructor. And then we have build up. And we have clean. For now, let's focus on add getters, add setters. Okay. Add no as constructor and add all as constructor. We will check how valid that part is later, but I think that's it. There are some other things that we can use, but it's an overkill for that project. Usually just deleting the setters and getter and the constructor, so basically anything under the variables. Okay, that's the website I was looking for. No null, stop worrying and love null pointer exception, cleanup, getter setter to string equals and hash code data. Okay, that's actually the one I was thinking about. Instead of all of that, we'll have add data, builder. I should make it. Should make an effort to get more about to learn more about what was it called again? Design patterns. I think the builder one I looked for it for some time, but that was about it. But I think I will try implementing it or searching how to use it after I finish the project, not before. So yes, we found the website that we were looking for. Should probably make a new folder and call it coding. And that thing will be saved. So not that many. What was it called again? Yeah, not that many annotations. So that's about it. Now this task is also finished. ID and task ID, do they get overlapped? I don't remember what I meant by that question. Maybe I should have written it as more descriptive. ID, task ID, do they overlap? I'm not sure. Nope. How to probably make a data attribute. I also don't remember that. What happens when you don't write something specific? I'll make an effort to write more next time. Yes, now the application property list. And by that I mean this thing. Instead of actually copying and pasting it every time, I would want to write it by myself, but I'm not sure what. I'm sure of the functionality of all of it, but this code is a part of a Spring Boot configuration for connection to PostgreSQL database using JPA and Hibernate ORM provider. It defines several important properties to configure in the data source, JPA behavior, and Hibernate settings. Spring.dataSource URL. This property specifies the URL of the database that your Spring Boot applicant should connect to. Spring data source URL. So what is the Spring? It's probably the class itself. Data source is, yes, the data source that we are getting everything from. Then we add the URL. URL is always JDBC, PostgreSQL. Okay, I don't think we have an issue with that one. And then with data source, the username and the password, nothing much here. Now what is DDL/auto? Data definition language generation strategy for Hibernate. Hibernate will create the database schema on application startup and then drop it. DDL auto create drop. Yeah, because we don't want to save a specific database since we are mainly doing that for testing purposes. Other common values. No changes to the theme. Update, create. Okay. Show SQL. Okay, that's starting from here. We started to use the Spring JPA.Hibernate, not the Spring data source. Okay, the first three, the one with the link, the username and the password, I should probably start by learning these three first because they have the same link. Delete all of this. Now if I remember correctly, Spring.data source, not sure if it was capital or not, dot URL equals to JDBC. No, I forgot how to write the URL for the JDBC. I'm not sure if I'm writing everything in small or some letters should be in capital. Spring.dataSource.url. So everything small, okay. And then you have equal JDBC 2 points Postgres 2 points, and then so you specify the database, and because we are a local, so a local host, we would use that also. Okay, let me try again. JDBC dot PostgreSQL localhost test. So between every new information we add, we have to add this. Except with the local host, we have to add 2 because that's probably because it's a website. Then that's the port of our website in our computer, and then that's the name. So what we mentioned, JDBC first, then PostgreSQL, yes, PostgreSQL, and then because it's finished, then local host 5434 test 2. That's correct. JDBC PostgreSQL localhost, nothing capital S, 5434. Actually, just write it under to check if everything's correct. Yes. Now for the second one, similar to the first one, Spring. There's something we need to add at the end, I'm not sure. No, okay. spring dot data source dot user name, and we just had here Postgres, and then we say spring dot data source dot password, and we say the password. Now to move to the Hibernate and the other stuff. Postgres, yes. Yeah, so that's the first part. Now to make our database not savable, create drop. I remember that property, but I don't remember the link to it. So spring.jpa.hibernate. I think that would be the same for all of them. Spring.jpa, yes, would be the one. So specifically for that one, we need the hibernate.ddl. Spring.jpa.showSQL. That one is properties. No, I think every single one of them is, at least out of the first three, is different. So we create them based on the functionality that I remember. So for the create drop effect, spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl equals to create dash drop. DDL auto create. Now to show, we say spring jpa dot show link, and then we say it's true. Spring.jpa show SQL. Yes. Okay, close enough. Now to specify the dialect, and then what else? This property format that generates SQL query for readability. When set for true, the SQL statement will be formatted with line breaks and amendment, making it easier to read. That should be actually written with this one. Spring dot jpa dot what format equals true. No, it's specifically from Hibernate. So we have two commands from Hibernate actually, one for the format and one for the drop. Spring.jpa dot hibernate dot properties dot format. Then we say true. jpa.hibernate, and then we have here dot format, and the other one DDL, but it's not just format, it's format SQL. And after formatting the SQL, we want them to, wait, was it what type of dash did we have? Yes, it's different. This one was like that, the other one, yes, just with two different dashes. So we provided the link, the password, and the username. Then we said we want it specifically to be dropped, and if you don't want it to be dropped, you just don't create that line. And then we say the format for readability, and then we show the SQL. What else? Yes, we also have the dialect, which is also part of the properties. spring jpa.properties.hypernet.dialect. Okay, so these three are from the same source, and we have another three from the same source. Spring.jpa.hypernet.dialect then equals to org.something hypernet.dialect.postgresql dialect. Let me check. hypernet.dialect.postgresql dialect. PostgreSQL, then dialect here is capital. That's the only capital letter things related that we have seen here. Okay, now let me copy everything here. So yes, spring.jpa. Okay, this one didn't have properties. Oh, okay, I'm missing the properties, never mind. Where was the last one? Spring jpa.properties.hypernet. This one is correct, the first three is correct, and then we have the DL one. Yes, more or less correct. We have this one here, also correct. Then we have this here. Okay, now delete everything and write it again. So we have spring.data source.url, and then we say that JDBC Postgres, yes, Postgres, then 2 dashes localhost 5434 test2, and then spring.data source.username Postgres. Wait, something wrong with that line. Spring.data source username okay, spelling Postgres. And here we forgot the spring.data source.password. Now for the DDL one, spring.jpa.hypernet.ddl-auto. Then we say create-drop spring.jpa.hypernet. So we wanted to drop dot properties dot dialect equals to org dot hypernet dot dialect dot postgres and spring dot jpa dot hypernet dot properties dot show SQL. We say that equals to true, and then yeah, that's 3. So the last one is the easiest one. Spring dot jpa dot hibernate dot show. No, actually that's not show. I think yes, that one was the format. Underscore SQL. Here, this one was the show one. Show dash SQL. Okay, now to compare. The first one, spring the data source dot URL. Yeah, why is there this here? Probably a typo, that's why. JDBC Postgres SQL. Okay, so I have to specify. Then localhost 543, that's why. Okay, that's the same. That's the same. That's the same. The DDL one, I managed to do that correctly. Now the dialog one. It's properties.hibernate. I think that's the error. So we say spring JPA, the hibernate comes at the end. Okay, so we take this one, move it to here. Spring.hibernate. Spring JPA.properties.hibernate. Properties.hibernate. Yes, now it's the same. And then down for the SQL format. Spring JPA property hibernate.sql format. Spring JPA. Yeah, I mixed the properties and the other one. No issue here. Properties. Yes. And then the last one is just hibernate. Not even hibernate, just spring JPA show SQL. So everyone is correct so far. No, spring jpa.properties.hibernate format, that's the upper one. Where's the shorter one? Spring jpa.show SQL. Yes, this one. Just typo. This one is correct, so we remove it. This one is also correct. Remove it. Correct. Correct. Yes. So it's easier to have them in this format. We have the data source 1, 3, and then the rest is JPA, but 3 of them. Okay, one of them is just hibernate, 2 of them are properties. .hibernate. Okay, I'll probably have to revise that one again later, but the application property list, I think that's done. The at response status and at AutoWire. What was the at response status again? I don't remember it. Okay. Explain to me the at response status in Spring Boot. The at response set annotation is used to define HTTP status code that should return. I think that one was the one that's used in the catch statement. I mean, you can just check from the old project, or actually instead of opening it, where's my repository? So this is the one. Let's check here how the code went. So I think this one was used in the controller and in the catch. Nope. At response status. Shouldn't have it here. Yes. What is that response status? We have get mapping, post mapping, request body, path variable. Nope. Okay, I was mistaken. Where the hell did I get the response status thing from? I thought it would have been in the controller, but let's check. Not the repository, of course. The service. Nope. Okay. Guess I'll have to learn it from scratch then. In Spring Boot, in general, that response status annotation is used to define the HTTP status code that should be returned for a specific response or exception. Okay, it's commonly applied to method or exception classes to indicate the desired HTTP status code when response is sent back. So if it's try and catch, then it should be in the controller. Was it at response status or just response status? Okay, we have the return response entity.status, HTTP status. Annotation marks a class or a method with a specific HTTP status code and optional reason that will be included in the HTTP response when that method or exception is accepted. So we add response status, we say value equal to HTTP status.status, which is the one that I use here, HTTP status.status, not necessarily .status, but internal server error. Okay, interesting. Value specifies the HTTP status code. It requires a field. It's defined by. I'm still not sure of the functionality. Okay, we'll check this one, but after we see the usage first. So it literally print whatever is there because we set the HTTP status.ok here. But given it as a definite answer, not with a try and catch, I'm not sure how user request custom exception is. So when to use, yes. That's too much information. Okay, let's start when how does it work? You are telling Spring and return specific HTTP status code for response client. No, I can't read. It's too overwhelming for some reason. At HTTP status. I think I have written it wrong. At response status, sorry. And what I understood so far, it's used to create the status.
simplest body annotation inside Spring Boot? What will be your answer if this question is asked in an interview?
Hmm. He says some interesting stuff here. I can't find the one that I'm searching for. Configuration, request body. Nope.
Hello, so
But very close.
Hi, welcome back to the Spring Boot tutorial. In this video, we will discuss about the at-response status annotation with an example. Let's begin. So, at-response status annotation is also applicable to Spring Framework. It is not a part of the Spring Boot. It is also a part of the Spring Framework. So, let's understand this with an example. Why we need at-response status annotation and what is the purpose of this annotation. So, at-response status annotation marks a method or an exception class with the status code and the reason message that should be returned. The status code is applied to the HTTP REST.
So he says it handles exception, but let me get the more complicated one. Okay, let me get that thing here because he said
And response status annotation marks a method or an exception class with the status code.
what does an exception class mean? What does an exception class mean? Okay, it has to extend an exception.
And the reason message that should be returned. The status
Marks a method or exception class, which is a class that basically extends exception with a status code and response message that should be returned. The status code is applied to the HTTP response when the handler method is invoked. And then we have HTTP status dot bad request reason pass in integer only. And then we have add exception handler, and then string handle exception.
status code is applied to the HTTP response when the handler method is invoked or whenever the specified.
Yeah, I think that thing is a bit too early for me to do right now. So I will just paint it in blue. Blue means for later, red means I didn't understand that part. So because handling exception will come after I already wrote everything related to the code first, right? Okay, we already said how to use notebook, so we don't need it. Now how does the AutoWire function? AutoWire function. How does it work? When you use AutoWire, Spring Container will automatically inject the required dependency into the class field constructor or setter method at runtime. I remember someone explaining that in an easier term, and that's there comes the argument. Some people say it's better to have the AutoWire in the constructor, not on the instance variable. How does that make a difference? In a constructor, on AutoWire on the constructor inject dependency. This mostly recommend approach because it makes the dependency immutable and guarantees the object always is valid status after construction. Dependency injection. Yeah, this one.
What's going on, guys? This is Salam. Welcome to Nico Code. In this video, I'm talking about dependency injection. Dependency injection is a
I know the concept, just not sure.
You saw the role of POJOs, scenes. You also saw the role of DAOs. The same with service classes and other different type of classes. Now, you saw this example here where we have the car service here.
Wait, I remember also having here, yes. I watched most of this on my own and I stopped here. There should be a video about also injection. Where was it? Okay, I'll probably have to revise that part again. But yes, I think I'll also delete the AutoM because I, for the most part, understand it, but just out of curiosity, I want to see how it works. Auto constructor. Let me check the way that the auto constructor works. Actually, let's do it in the user class here. I think it was from here. Create just knob generate alt insert. Where the fuck is an insert? Nope. Okay. Anyways. Yep, here. I can't see it for some reason. Constructor. How about we say everything? Yes, if you want to do a constructor, we'll use a constructor for all of them. Or we will use a constructor for none. And then we want the setter and getters. Generate setter and getters, and we say for all of them. Okay, so now I can do it through Loom and also without Loom. Obviously the one with Loom looks better, but another thing that's done from the list here. Now, what is DTO? Yeah, and from what I have seen, the guy was making a service as an interface and then having a service implementation. Not sure why this strategy will work or why do we use it, but let's check. What does DTO stand for and why do we use it? Data transfer object. DTO is a design pattern used to transfer data between different layers or components of an application, typically between service layer and the presentation layer, like the controller. Okay. The main purpose of the DTO is to carry data between the processes in a way that optimizes communication and reduces unnecessary complexity. It helps decouple the internal data model from the external representation used by the client. By using DTOs, you can control which data is exposed and how it's formatted. So instead of just sending all the data to the controller, you can have more control over which data to use. Okay. Separation of concerns, performance optimization, security, flexibility, facilitate data aggregation. Example, suppose you have an application that manages user. You have the user entity in your domain model. You want to send this data to a RESTful API, but you don't want to expose sensitive fields like the password or created ad. Instead, you might define a user DTO and only expose the necessary field. So we create user DTO and we say the ID, the name, and the email. Now in the service layer or the control layer, you can use user DTO to return the Sunshine's version. Get mapping, okay, that's a controller. And he created a service. Dot get ID, dot get first name, dot get email. I kinda get it and I kinda don't at the same time. I have to look more into this design pattern since we are already on the subject. It is a design pattern, so I have to search it more. And what was the full name of the thing? Design data transfer object. Data transfer object. To make sure sensitive data isn't exposed, like the password. So you create, for example, another user with only the desired data, not the sensitive ones. I guess I understand. So instead of using, but how will the data be exposed? That's that question. I understand that it's used to, instead of handling the user's password and inside the controller or stuff like that. Okay, that's a good subsequent question for that. How is the data being exposed? That's one question. How can we use it, and what will happen if we don't use it? Well, I guess we finished a lot today. Surprisingly, the only thing that took so long is probably this one. And I'll put this one as purple, as void, because it's not viable for me to even search it. Right now I searched it a lot, I'm still not getting the gist of it, but I think it's just a matter of time. I have to do probably more research about it on my own. Why long not int? We already know that. Lombok was easy. I just need to memorize the annotations. I already know what they do. These ones, I'm not sure what they even mean. The application property list, we managed to study it today. The add response is a bit too advanced, I would say. We don't need to know it right now because it's an upgrade necessarily. You don't necessarily need it to build the project that we are working on. So, and then we have AutoWired. We also don't need to know it. We just need to know how it works for now and when to use it. The auto constructor creation from IntelliJ, it was through what was called here the generate. Should probably write that here. Right click plus generate. We want this. Now we stopped at the DTO. and the implementation of the service layer, which I think both of them are design patterns. Okay, that's how to add Git. Not necessarily much in the project itself, which I should probably get into next time. Actually, next time I shouldn't worry too much about these stuff. I'll have to properly implement the stuff first and then add later. I might actually make 2 streams a day just for the project, one for researching and one for writing. I'll see how it goes.